No, 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 you're lying to me. Elvis's voice cracked through the room like a live wire snapping in the rain. My mommy loves me. She would never sell me, never. His chest was heaving, his small fists pressing hard against his temples, his whole body shaking with something that wasn't just anger. It was the kind of pain that lives deeper than words, the kind that eats a child from the inside. Your sister never cared about you, Elvis. The male voice on the other side of the room was calm. Everything she ever told you was a lie. Stop it. You are lying. Elvis screamed. Stop saying that about Samantha. The room shook violently. The metal chair beside him scraped across the floor on its own. A glass of water on the table began to tremble, then shattered without anyone touching it. The walls groaned like they were being beaten, and Elvis didn't even notice. He was too deep inside his own pain. The pain that the lies he was being fed caused him. Let me take you back. Just 40 minutes before all of this began. The morning had started so well with a bright sun casting its rays onto the earth. It was Elvis's second day at school. Still learning how to socialize thanks to Samantha. Samantha walked beside her little brother on the path leading to school, the sun cutting through the trees. Elvis had his backpack strapped on both shoulders the way she taught him, his sketchbook tucked under his arm like it was the most precious thing he owned. Elvis, stop dragging your feet and walk fast.
Stop dragging your feet.
Samantha glanced back at him, her voice soft but firm. I'm not dragging. He looked up at her with those wide, serious eyes. I'm walking slowly on purpose, so the day doesn't go too fast. She almost smiled at his words. A few steps ahead of them, her classmate Priya jogged to catch up, slightly breathless, her braids bouncing with every step. Samantha, wait for me. She grabbed Samantha's arm when she reached her. I never got to properly thank you. That drawing you did of my little brother, the one you gave me last week. Her eyes were already getting watery. He carried it to the hospital with him. He wouldn't let go of it. Samantha stopped walking. Is he okay? He's better now. He said the drawing made him feel like someone saw him. Priya pressed both hands to her chest. I don't know how you did that, but thank you. Really? Elvis was watching the whole exchange with that quiet intensity of his. He looked at Samantha, still deciding whether to fully trust her. There was love there, but there was still distance with doubt creeping in. What none of them noticed was that there is black car parked just 30 meters behind them, with it engines running, tinted glasses, and watching them. Everything happened in under 6 seconds. Like flash. One moment Elvis was 2 steps behind Samantha. The next, tires screamed against the road and the black car lunged forward like something unleashed. Samantha spun around at the sound and her blood went cold. Elvis! She called out. But the door was already swinging open. 2 men, fast and practiced, grabbed Elvis before the boy could even process what was happening. He screamed. One sharp raw scream, and Samantha was already running towards him. Let him go. Her voice split the air. Her legs were moving faster than she thought possible. Elvis's face was pressed against the car window, his small hands clawing at the glass, his eyes locked on hers with pure terror. Samantha, he screamed. Samantha, help me. She ran. She ran until her lungs burned and her vision blurred and her legs stopped obeying her. But the car didn't slow down. It rounded the corner and disappeared. And the street went so quiet it felt like the whole world had just stopped breathing. Priya grabbed Samantha's arm before she collapsed forward. Oh God, Samantha. Was that your brother? Samantha couldn't answer. Her mouth was open but nothing came out. She stood in the middle of that empty road, her heart pounding fast against her chest, staring at the space where the car used to be. Elvis's scream was still echoing inside her head. Well, I'm sorry for intruding into your story, but are you new to Moonsoul Stories? If you're new here, you are lovely, welcome my channel. Please, I want to inform you that this is part 1 of our lovely Samantha story, and please check the description for the link to part 1 so you don't get left out, or the pinned comments under this video for the link to path 1. And don't forget to subscribe. Samantha's hands were shaking when she finally got her phone out. She called her mother 3 times before the line connected. Mom. Her voice broke on that one word. They took Elvis. He is gone, Mom. She cried out. The silence on the other end lasted exactly 2 seconds. Then, where are you? Outside the school road. A black car. There were 2 men, Mom. He was screaming for help. She pressed her fist to her mouth to stop herself from falling apart completely. Listen to me, baby girl. Her mother's voice was controlled, trying not to break. Do not go anywhere. I will call Dad. Right now. Do you hear me? Yes, Mom. Samantha. Yes, Mom. Hung on there for Mama, okay? Yes, Mom. Ruth hung up the call. She hung up and Samantha stood there clutching the phone, breathing through her nose, trying to find that thread connection again between her and her twin brother Elvis. And there underneath all the fear, she found it. Faint. Frantic. He was alive. For now. Nicholas picked up on the first ring. They took Elvis. Samantha didn't wait for a greeting. Black car, 2 men, no plates I could read. He was taken from the school road, maybe 15 minutes ago. She heard Nicholas exhale sharply. Then, I'm already moving. Don't try anything alone, Samantha. I mean it. I need to find him, Dad. We will find him together. His voice dropped lower. But if you burn yourself out trying to connect with him before we even know where he is, you'll be useless to him when it matters. You understand me? She did understand. She just didn't care. The moment she hung up, she closed her eyes right there on that road, with Priya's hand still on her shoulder and the wind moving through the trees like nothing had happened. She pulled every piece of focus she had inward, past the noise, past the fear, and reached for Elvis. Reached for that thin, trembling thread connection she had with him. She found it immediately, and what she felt on the other end made her stomach drop. He was terrified. He was confused, and he was getting further away from her by the second. Inside the black car, Elvis had stopped screaming. Not because he wasn't scared, but because one of the men had pressed something cold and sharp against his neck and said very quietly, "Make one more sound and I will use this." Elvis had gone completely still after that. His sketchbook was still clutched under his arm. His knuckles were white. He stared out the window and watched the city blur past him and thought about Samantha. About the way she had looked at him that morning. About how she always made sure his backpack straps were even before they left the house. He thought, she's coming for me. She has to be coming for me. But the car kept moving. And no one came. They drove for what felt like forever before turning into an underground space. Dim, concrete, cold. Elvis was pulled out of the car before he could get his bearings. His legs nearly gave out beneath him, but the man holding his arm didn't let him fall. That felt like the cruelest thing, being held up by the person hurting you. They took him into a room and locked the door. One bare light above him. A metal chair. A table. And a man sitting across from him who looked at Elvis the way scientists look at specimens, with interest, not warmth. "Sit down, Elvis." The man's voice was smooth. "We're not going to hurt you." Elvis didn't sit. "Where is my sister? What do you want with me?" "Shoo, Elvis, one question at a time, boy," the man spouted. "She's not coming." The man folded his hands on the table. "That's actually what I want to talk to you about." Elvis stared at him, weary. Back on the school road, Samantha felt it the exact moment the connection shifted. It was like trying to hold water in cupped hands and feeling it drain through your fingers. Elvis was still there. But something around him was changing. Something was getting between them. She opened her eyes. They're doing something to him. Her voice was barely above a whisper. Someone is. They're interfering with him somehow. Priya stared at her. "Samantha, what does that mean?" she asked. Samantha was already walking. She had no destination yet, just direction. The pull in her chest was still there, faint and flickering like a candle in the wind. She followed it the only way she knew how. She pressed her palm flat against her sternum, breathed slowly, and let the images come. Concrete. Cold air. A single light. Elvis sitting, no standing, he was still standing. And a man with gray at his temples speaking to him in a tone that sounded like kindness but wasn't. She pulled harder. Pushed deeper. Her nose began to bleed. And instantly withdrew herself. "Your sister knew this day was coming." The man across from Elvis leaned forward slightly. "She made an agreement with some very powerful people, Elvis. She told them where you were. She told them what you could do." Elvis's jaw tightened. "That's a lie. She would never do that," Elvis affirmed. "Is it?" The man opened a folder on the table. "Slide a photograph across." "Do you know what this is?" Elvis looked at it despite himself. It was a document. His name was on it. He couldn't read all of it, but he could read his name. Elvis, and below it, a signature he didn't recognize. "Your mother signed you away after birth," the man said softly. "She never needed you. Someone offered her money to make life easy for her and she took it. She was desperate and a cruel mother." "Which woman in her right senses will sell out her 9-month struggle?" the man asked. Elvis's breathing changed. "You're lying to me," he raged with a clenched fist. "Oh, and another truth you need to know. Do you think that your father didn't know that you were locked up in that room for years?" The man's voice never wavered. "And Samantha has been waiting for the right moment to hand you over since the beginning. Why do you think she was teaching you to control your power? So you'd be worth more. Or maybe worthless." He sneered. Stop. Elvis's voice cracked. Stop talking. You were never anyone's child, Elvis. You were always someone's asset. The room shook. A low, deep tremor that rattled the metal chair and sent a hairline crack running up the wall. The man across from Elvis didn't flinch. He had been briefed. He knew what was coming. He watched the boy with his gray, calculating eyes and let the lies he has framed settle like sediment into him. Elvis pressed both hands to his head. No, 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 you're lying to me. The crack in the wall split wider as he screamed. My mommy loves me. My daddy didn't know I was locked in there. A shelf on the far wall buckled and the items on it began to slide and fall. Samantha would never. She would never hurt me. He couldn't finish the sentence. Because somewhere inside him, in that small wounded place that had never fully healed, the words had already found a crack of their own to pour into. And the room kept shaking. Samantha collapsed onto the floor. Her knees simply stopped working and she went down onto the pavement with one hand catching herself, her other hand still pressed to her chest, her nose bleeding freely now, her eyes half open and unfocused. Priya dropped beside her immediately. Samantha, Samantha, look at me. But Samantha wasn't fully there. She was somewhere between here and wherever Elvis was. Standing in that cold concrete room with him, watching him break from the inside, feeling every crack in him like a crack in herself. And then just before the connection went dark, she saw it. A sketchpad, open on the table. Elvis's hand moving across the page with that terrifying certainty he always drew with. The certainty of someone who wasn't choosing what to draw but simply recording what was already true. She saw the image taking shape before the darkness pulled her under completely. It was a woman, lying still. A car overturned beside her. He was drawing there being crushed by a car. Nicholas found Samantha on the pavement with Priya crouched over her, pressing a folded cloth against her nose. He didn't ask questions. He lifted her carefully, got her into the car, and pressed 2 fingers against her wrist. What happened to her? He asked, turning to Priya. She just collapsed. She was standing 1 second and then, she explained. Did she say anything before she blacked out? She said, they're doing something to him. That's all. Priya replied. Okay, thank you, Nicholas said. Get back into your class. He stepped into the car and kick-started the engines to life, riding into the tiled road. A few minutes in the road, Samantha came back to herself, gaining consciousness. The first thing she was aware of was the motion of the car. The second was the drawing she had seen in her vision, the woman on the ground, the overturned car. She sat up sharply on the back car seat. Easy. Nicholas kept his eyes on the road, while glancing at her through the rear-view mirror. You're okay, sweetheart. You are with me, he said, trying to calm her fears. I saw what he drew, Dad. Her voice was hoarse. He drew Mom, lying on the ground next to a car crash. She turned to look at him fully. You know what his drawings mean. If he drew it, it's already. Then we move faster to get yours. He pressed the accelerator down. Where is he? Did you get a location? She closed her eyes and reached back into that last moment of connection before the darkness. Concrete, underground basement with intense cold. The smell of something industrial. It was a factory. I think it's an abandoned one, she said. Something with heavy machinery running nearby around the area. She pressed her fingers to her temple. There was a crack in the wall northeast facing. The light was coming from the upper left. She stopped. Opened her eyes. I can draw it. Nicholas reached behind his seat without looking and produced a sketchpad. He placed it on her lap. She drew fast and without hesitation. In the underground room, Elvis had gone quiet. That was the most dangerous sight. He sat in the metal chair now, his sketchbook open in front of him, his pencil moving in slow strokes. The man with gray temples watched from across the room with something close to satisfaction. The drug they'd introduced through the ventilation 20 minutes ago was doing exactly what it was designed to do, but softened the walls between his emotions and his power, make him more reactive, less filtered. Elvis drew without looking at what he was drawing. His eyes were fixed on the middle distance, glassy and still, but his hand kept moving. The gray-templed man leaned over slightly to look at the sketchpad. He saw a road, a figure on the road, and above the figure, a car airborne already descending. He smiled. Good boy, he murmured. Keeping their doom, that what they deserve for deceiving you, he muttered, with a sly marring across his lips triumphantly. That was what he needed, to use him to destroy Nicholas to his worst. Nicholas's team reached the location in 11 minutes with 2 vehicles and 6 of his men. Nicholas gave instructions in short sentences, positioned everyone, and then looked at Samantha. You stay behind, baby girl. I need to stay close to your mom. he said, staring at Ruth, who nodded her head at him, her hands wrapped strongly around Samantha's little hands, holding firmly. They were through the door in under a minute. The guards outside the room didn't anticipate resistance that organized that fast. By the time the gray-templed man heard the commotion from outside and stood up from his chair, the door to Elvis's room was already open. They walked in immediately, Samantha rushing to Elvis on seeing him. Her heart has been tinged with fear at the thought of just losing his newfound twin brother, who is yet to learn how to control his powers and not be manipulated. Elvis looked up. His eyes were still glassy, unwelcoming. "Get out." His voice was filled with hate and anger. It didn't sound like the Elvis she knew. "Elvis," she called out softly, taking a step closer at him. "I said get out." The metal chair beside him flew sideways and hit the wall. The crack in the ceiling widened as his rage and anger deepened. "You sold me. You hate me. You never needed me. You've been lying to me this whole time. Everyone lied. Every single one of you. Just leave me." He raged, turning his back at Samantha, clutching his face into his palm, and cried. The hurt was too much for him to bear. "Sweetheart," Ruth called out softly. "Mama is here to take you. Let's go home." Ruth smoothed softly, but it wasn't working. "I said go away," Elvis raged, the ground shaking from the weight of anger that swelled in his voice. She didn't rush. She didn't flinch when the ground started shaking. She walked straight toward her son like nothing in that room could stop her. "Elvis." Her voice was calm. The way she said it made him go completely still. He slowly turned and looked at her. "Get away from me," he said. "No," Ruth said simply. She kept walking towards him until she was standing directly in front of him. "I am not going anywhere without my son." "But you sold me. You don't want me," he said in a low voice, refusing to look directly at his mother's face. "I did not sell you." Her voice didn't rise, didn't waver. "They took you from me while I was lying unconscious on a delivery table." He kept fighting the rage of believing her or not. The walls kept shaking because of the tension of his powers. A second tiny crack lit across the floor beneath their feet. And then the visions flooded through his memory. Seeing his birth being taken from his mother's suffering and struggles across 10 years. And Elvis saw all of it. Every moment Ruth had spent carrying a grief she could not name. Every room that felt too quiet for her. Every night she pressed her hand against her chest, wondering why something always felt missing inside of her. Elvis went still as the memories of his mother flashed across his mind. The shaking stopped immediately. And then he pulled back and looked at Ruth's face. His beautiful mother's face, her eyes filled with so much love to give. "You never gave me away," he said quietly. No mother would give or sell her own child, no matter the circumstances, even if the world was against her, Ruth replied. Elvis remembered the destructive drawing he had made. He looked down at his hands. "I drew something bad, Mom," he whispered, searching for the stretch. He found the drawing on the floor a bit far from him. He looked at the drawing for a long time. The road, the figure, the car descended. His hand hovered over the page, trembling, uncertain. Then immediately he drew over the figure in the road, moved her to the side, changed the angle of the car, added a barrier of protection. 3 kilometers away, the gray-templed man had walked out of a secondary exit, confident and unhurried, already composing the call he would make to report success. He stepped off the curb to cross to his waiting car and head home. But he never made it. The sound was sudden. A big vehicle losing control on the wet road above. And by the time anyone reached him, there was nothing left to do. Nicholas made the call 3 days after bringing Elvis home. He sat alone in his office, the hospital records spread across his desk, the falsified stillbirth report, the payment trail leading back to Dr. Park Sung-il, the 10 years of documented isolation and psychological manipulation, and he looked at all of it for a long time. Without a second thought, he picked up the phone. The arrest happened on a Wednesday morning. For officers with 1 warrant. Rachel Hong answered her own front door in a silk robe, composed and unbothered, until she saw her son standing behind them. "Nicholas. I gave them everything," he said quietly. "The hospital records. The doctor. The payments. All of it, Mom. You have to pay for your crime," Nicholas said calmly. Rachel straightened. "You would do this to your own mother." "I would have done worse if you weren't my mother," Nicholas grunted in a dissatisfying voice. "You should be grateful that I'm only stopping at this length," he added. The officers moved forward. Rachel Hong did not struggle with them. She walked out of her own home with her chin up and her hands cuffed in front of her. But her eyes stayed on her son until the car door closed between them. The trial lasted 11 days. The charges were read clearly. kidnapping of a minor at a very tender age, illegal confinement, psychological manipulation, falsification of medical records. The evidence was undeniable. Dr. Park Sung-il had already cooperated fully with investigators in exchange for a reduced sentence. Every document, every payment, every year of Elvis's life spent in that dark room was laid out in front of the court without missing any. Rachel Hong's lawyer fought hard for her, but it was not enough. The judge delivered the charges in a few words. "Mrs. Rachel, I hereby find you guilty of all charges," he declared. 5 years imprisonment, mandatory community service upon release, full surrendering of 25% of your company assets tied to your grandson. Ruth sat in the courtroom uttering no word, she only watched. Felt satisfying. Nicholas sat straight in his chair and did not look away from the judge once. Elvis sat between them. He watched his grandmother stand to receive her sentence. Watched her face stay composed right up until the moment the gavel came down. He didn't say anything on the drive home. But when they pulled up outside the apartment and Nicholas cut the engine, Elvis sat for a moment looking out the window at the ordinary street. People walking, a vendor selling something warm from a cart, 2 kids arguing over whose turn it was to ride the bicycle, and he exhaled slowly, like he had been holding his breath for 10 years. "Eat gently, darling, so you don't get choked up," she cautioned as she packed his and Samantha's school lunch. "Yes, Mom," he replied, drinking the glass of milk before him to push the bread down his throat. He was more than excited to return to school this new week. He sat beside a boy named Lancey who collected erasers from Elvis and smiled back, which Elvis appreciated enormously. By the 3rd week, they were walking to the lunch table together every day. His close friend in school. Samantha didn't have to worry about his socialization anymore because Lancey was so very social, and she was glad that he was friends with her brother. That weekend on their balcony, a small orange cat appeared at the back door of the house, thin and hungry, looking at Elvis. Elvis sat down on the step. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out half a biscuit he had saved from breakfast. He broke a small piece off and held it out on his open palm. The cat looked at the biscuit, and looked at his face. Then it looked at the biscuit again. Then it stepped forward and ate from his hand. Elvis stayed crouched there without moving, watching it eat. He took the cat in, walked straight to Samantha's room where she was reading. "Can we keep it?" he asked politely. Samantha looked at the cat on his arm, then at her brother. "Ask Mom first," she said. He slowly walked to the kitchen, seeing his mom tidying up the kitchen, his soft voice coming from behind. "Mom, can I keep it?" he asked softly. Ruth turned and saw the cat looking so weak on her son's arm. "You want to?" she asked, meeting Elvis' eyes. "Yes," he nodded. "Okay, then you can keep it, but first we need to take it to the vet. It looks weak and sick," Ruth suggested, wiping off her wet hands on her apron, took it off and went upstairs to grab her car keys. He named his newfound cat Truth. Pain can push people to destroy, but love can teach them to heal. We may start from the same place, but what we go through shapes us. Those who are hurting are easy to control, but connection can set them free. In the end, it's not power that defines us. It's the choices we make. You are not what happened to you, you are what you choose to become. And that is where we leave them, not at the end of everything, but at the beginning of something quieter. Something real. If this story moved you, if Elvis reminded you of someone, maybe even yourself, drop it in the comments. Tell me what hit hardest in this story. Tell me what you want to see next. This channel exists because of you, and your voice matters here. If you are new, subscribe because the stories only get deeper. And if you have been here from the beginning, you already know what we are building. We will see you in the next one.